A few years ago, our sons were visiting family in Ontario. They were with their cousin Adam one day, and Adam said there was a birthday party for one of my uncles. Suggested they drop by and say hello. When they got there, my uncle's daughter opened the door, recognized Adam, but not the two young men with him. I don't think she had ever met them. She hesitated, wondering if Adam had decided to just bring a couple of his friends to the small family party. "Who are they?" she tentatively asked. To which Adam enthusiastically replied, "They're Jeff's and Carol's sons from Winnipeg," at which all three were enthusiastically welcomed into the party. Having clergy parents, I'm sure their sons came up with a biblical analogy at that time. Well, maybe not absolutely sure they did that, but they might have paraphrased Jesus' words. "Those who receive you, Adam, receive us. And those who receive us are doing so as if they were receiving those who sent us," in this case, our parents, drove us to the airport so we could fly to Ontario. In today's scripture reading, Jesus tells his disciples, "Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me." Jesus knew the mystical paradox that we are both deeply distinct and deeply connected, that we don't have to create unity so much as acknowledge our unity as part of God's creation, as children of God, as carriers and couriers of God's image and God's love. Jesus went on to say that anyone who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet, or a righteous person in the name of a righteous person, would receive the reward of the prophet and of the righteous person. Receiving a reward sounds like a good thing. We get a prize. But the reward for prophets and for the righteous in the Bible, the consequences for their being a prophet, their being righteous, that is, someone who does what is right in God's eyes, doesn't usually look like much of a desired prize. After all, Jesus was a prophet, Jesus was righteous. At his baptism, God's voice speaks and says of Jesus, "You are my beloved one." Well, being God's beloved doesn't entitle you to all sorts of rewards and privileges. What does? And yet Jesus was crucified. The reward of prophets and those who try to live from God's love, the reward, what you get, is to have a passionate commitment to the well-being of all God's creation. It's to have a passion for justice, justice which recognizes that it is never just us, that attitudes that privilege just us, our group, people who look like us, believe like us, that such attitudes create divisions, they create categories of people, and therefore they're sin. They're opposed to God's love of all people. Some countries in the past number of years have been adapting what is called restorative justice. Our familiar justice systems are often referred to as retributive justice. People are convicted, tried for having broken a law. But restorative justice doesn't deal with the breaking of law. It deals with the breaking of relationships. That's long been the basis of North American indigenous culture's views of justice, seeing it not as a matter of punishment and retribution, but of healing. Jesus was a healer. He didn't bask in the privilege of being God's beloved. He was executed on a cross, trusting that the way of healing is often a way through suffering, but still a way of trusting in God's love through all times. Racism for Christians is sin because it is breaking of our relationship with God, because to welcome God in our lives is to welcome the ones who are sent, created, loved by God. So as to welcome everyone. Everyone we meet is a carrier and a courier of God's presence, God's spirit, God's image. When we give water to those who are thirsty, we give water to Christ. Christ, which is the image of God in each of us. The image of God in us gives water to the image of God in another. We are all God's children. We all live within God. God lives amongst, around, within each of us. So let us welcome God, our Creator, by welcoming, loving, caring for everyone. by being sources of justice, participants in the healing of human relationships, the healing of creation, the healing of our distinct and unified selves, a healing that's grounded in the love of God. Amen.